So we will be talking about innate immunity, or the first line of defense. All animals have innate immunity, and is seen as like something that recognizes a broad range of pathogens using only a small amount of receptors, just because it can defend a lot of stuff with not much stuff. And innate immunity has a very rapid response. So the first line of defense for innate immunity is the skin, the mucous membranes, and secretions. And it also includes internal defenses like phagocytic cells, natural killer cells, antimicrobial proteins, and the inflammatory response. Before we talk about any of the actual responses, we'll talk about some of the types of blood cells you see in the innate immune system. So first we have granulocytes. These are white blood cells that are characterized by granules in their cytoplasm. As you can see in the picture, they have those dots. And one of these types of granulocytes are called basophils. These are the least common and largest type of granulocytes. They're somewhat responsible for inflammatory responses because they produce histamines, which we'll talk more about later. And like most other granulocytes, they perform phagocytosis. The others will be talked more about later in the presentation. Next, we have monocytes. These are large white blood cells that have like a bean-shaped nucleus and ovoid in appearance. Half are stored in the spleen because this is where they're likely to encounter pathogens. The macrophages and then dendritic cells that are monocytes will be talked more about later when we talk about phagocytic cells. Now we'll be talking about one of the layers of barrier defense. So barrier defense is simply just like the outer layer of your body. Like skin is part of the barrier defense. Secretions in the mucous membranes are part of your barrier defense. So those are kind of self-explanatory. Your skin is a natural barrier that's just keeps stuff from getting in. But one of the things that's interesting in the mucous membrane is that they also have lysozymes. So this is an enzyme that breaks down the outer layer of a bacteria cell, making them more susceptible to being destroyed once they get into the body. So this is found in saliva, tears, and mucus secretions. So it's found everywhere that the skin's not. So this is just another layer of barrier defense, the body trying to protect itself.
Phagocytic cells. Toll-like receptors, they bind to fragments of molecules with characteristics of pathogens. It tells the phagocytic cells which cells to eat. Macrophages are large phagocytic cells. Some migrate throughout the body, others reside permanently in organs and tissues where they are likely to encounter pathogens, like the spleen. Neutrophils, phagocytic cells that circulate in the blood, attracted by signals from infected tissue. Then they come and destroy infectious pathogens. Dendritic cells are phagocytic cells that mainly populate tissue like skin that contact the environment. They also stimulate adaptive immunity and engulf pathogens. Eosinophils, they're cells that are usually found in mucosal surfaces with low phagocytic activity. Upon encountering parasites, they discharge destructive enzymes. Cytokines are discharged by active phagocytes, macrophages, and neutrophils. They cause the increased blood flow to infected areas. This increased redness and an increased temperature is associated with the inflammatory response. Killer cells. These cells circulate throughout the body. They detect abnormal array of surface proteins, and they also detect virus-infected and cancerous cells. These cells do not engulf infected cells, but rather release chemicals that destroy cells. Most animals have the lymphatic system. This is the fluid called lymph that is released from lymph nodes. Complement proteins. Complement proteins consist of roughly 30 proteins located in the blood plasma. Proteins that circulate in an active state, activated by substances found on the surfaces of microbes. Activation results in a cascade of biochemical reactions. These reactions cause the lysing of individual cells. The inflammatory response. Mast cells in the inflammatory response store histamines in their granules. They're found in connective tissues. Histamine, they are signaling molecule that causes nearby blood vessels to dilate and become more permeable. This is characterized by increased blood flow causing redness, swelling, a congregation of antimicrobial peptides. This makes pus, which is rich with white blood cells, and fever.